On this episode of Whitetail Cribs, we're going to Jake Korngable's home in southern Ohio. Jake comes from a long line of deer hunters in the Buckeye State, and his grandfather was even one of the founding fathers of the nonprofit Deerasic. Get ready to see some giant Ohio bucks and hear some cool stories along the way. If you enjoy the episode and want to help us out, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Now let's get into the episode.
The Exodus team is traveling around the United States to take a look inside the trophy rooms of some of the most interesting whitetail hunters in the country. From giant bucks, unique racks, and riveting stories, welcome to Whitetail Cribs.
Come on in. Welcome to my crib. I'm Jake Korngable. I work for AEP, American Electric Power, which is one of the largest power companies in the country. Right here is my at-home office. Come on. Here's the kitchen. Binoculars behind you to always look out the front door. Here's the fridge, some bush light for when friends come over, some creamer for coffee, just odds and ends. We eat a lot of deer meat and turkey, a lot of stuff, chicken too, but unfortunately during COVID the chicken supply seems to be running pretty low, so we've been eating out a lot, trying to save a lot of our food right now. But this kitchen table means a lot to me because it's one of many pieces of the puzzle that brought me up to be who I am as a hunter today. 1998, my uncle called and we were sitting around the table as a family. It was opening night of shotgun season. My uncle was shaking, he was crying, and I was overhearing my grandpa talking to him, and he was crying, saying he shot the biggest deer of his life. And come in here, I'll show you. This is my uncle's deer that he called that night, 1998, and it's still number one typical in Medina County, 180 and 1/8 inches, and it still holds the number one spot. And I mean, it's just what dreams are made of. And I want a Boone and Crockett. I want it. I envy my uncle so much and everything that he's accomplished with this deer, and it just set the cornerstone at a young age. I was only 7 years old, and I'll never forget that phone call. And this deer just means so much to me, and it's done so much to my life that words can't even describe. Down here is a fawn that my uncle, who is also a taxidermist, the mother got hit out in front of the house, and they pulled twins out of the stomach. It got hit in May, and they mounted this fawn, and this has been part of the family for years. Growing up around this stuff, it just means so much, and being able to keep this for the rest of my life, I don't think my family understands how much it means to me, truly. And like I say, that's part of what's been shaping me into the young adult and the hunter that I've became. And right here is my first deer. I shot it in 2003 with my dad on this farm out back. I got 68 acres here, and it was a pretty special moment. I'd been trying to bow hunt for a few years, and saved up enough money cleaning some cabins that I was able to buy a Mossberg 20 gauge pump. And my dad sat with me and had an old VHS camera, and it was a youth weekend, and a doe came out and she started acting funny, and I'd been trying to bow hunt long enough that I knew something was probably coming behind her. And this deer came out and was chasing her, and my dad's yelling, don't shoot, and he was running. I took a shot. I probably did get lucky, and anymore I would tell, if I had kids, I'd probably tell them not to shoot that shot as well. But nonetheless, that was my first deer, and a moment I'll never forget. All right, let's head downstairs to Big Bucks and Buckeyes Sports Bar. It's my favorite place in the house. Go Buckeyes. This is a spare bedroom. We got a spare bathroom down here. I have a door that goes outside, and this is where I keep a lot of my deer hunting stuff. This is an ozone closet that I made myself. A lot of people pay a lot of money for these closets. I bought this unit right here off Amazon for $30. Got this from Walmart for another $30. Plus I have a tote that costs $20. I have essentially what would be a $500 package for under $100. And scent control means a lot. I don't run an ozonics in the tree, but you know, keeping the scent down, killing the germs as much as possible here at the house means a lot. My girlfriend's Elite, my Triax, Raven crossbow that we both share and use, and then my deer hunting tote and her deer hunting tote. Over on the back wall, I have a bow for my girlfriend's nephew. I've been trying to teach him how to shoot a bow. He's 11 years old. And then some other seasonal hunting boxes, I guess you call it. Waterfowl, turkey season, different things. Got turkey decoys. I got some upstairs, getting ready to transition into spring turkey hunting. And then we'll go to my favorite room in the whole house. I remodeled the basement 3 years ago. It's been a dream of mine to have bunch of big deer on a side of a barn, and I tried to recreate that in my basement. So my uncle has meant a bunch to me. I've got a bunch of family members that have meant a lot to me. But my mom and dad got divorced in July of 2000. He moved back to Minnesota, and my grandpa passed away in October of 2000. So I was 9 years old and had a love for the outdoors because of my family growing up. And Jack Milligan, who was with 10 Point for years, he took me under his wing. And he passed away years ago, 2012, I believe it was. Might have been 2011. And I had this was the first turkey I shot after he had passed away. And this is my first turkey ever. And I had a painting of that replicated on that first bird I shot by myself without him. And this was actually part of his ceremony. A friend wrote this poem for him, and that's actually etched in the glass here. So growing up, when I was a teenager, Lee and Tiffany exploded onto the scene, and Tiffany caught everybody's eye. We're not going to beat around the bush there. I never read a ton of books other than book reports and stuff, but Lee had wrote or helped write a book that I had bought, and I'll never forget one of the lines in the book, and it said, "I will outfeed all of my neighbors. He will have the best food plots, and he will attract every single deer and every single buck in essentially the county, square mile." And with some harsh winters, I mean, he said that they've found deer travel multiple miles from other farms to their primary farm that he focused on that late season. And they mean a lot. And something that I work for AEP, and I'm not a hunting career. I don't have a career in hunting, but Lee and Tiffany had this video, says who we are and talking about how bad you want it. And I've also got a couple fish. That's a Lake Erie monster, 33 inches, about 12 pounds. I was in high school when I caught that. It's one of my favorites. Here's a deadhead found by one of the farms I hunt. I mean, just has everything. He's a freak. And, I keep some of my sheds here and some of the different deadheads that I've came across over the years. But so this book, kind of want to show you guys. This is Ohio Land of the Giants, Dean Ziegler's Whitetail Spectacular. So my grandpa was affiliated with Deerasic Whitetail Foundation before it became the Deerasic Classic and before he obviously passed away. And my family and my upbringing has shaped me into the hunter. It's gave me that drive and that love and passion for the outdoors. Here's a deer head that my family had donated. It was killed in 1971, and it was 267 and 6/8 inch deer. I'll never forget growing up holding the replica of that deer in my hands and just in awe growing up as a child. And I had no idea what I was doing out in the woods, but just that was another one of those things growing up that it was just ingrained in me and around me that it just kept making me want it more and more. Here's a shed off of a deer that my girlfriend had passed probably about a dozen times hunting this deer that she's been hunting the last couple of years. And maybe I'll get you to show the viewers what that deer looks like. And then here's a set of sheds that I'd found in 2016, and this is off of a deer spring of 2016, so this would have been 2015 deer. And these sheds are off of a deer I named Brutus, which is right here. So a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. Don't shoot every 120-inch deer you come across. And this is, they grow up and they'll amaze you, honestly. He was a tough one, but January 13th, there was about an 8-inch snowstorm, did him in. I had a few acres of standing beans and another food plot that I was running some supplemental feed with, and finally he decided to move early enough after 2 days before it was 60 degrees and we had a 60-degree temperature drop and 8 inches of snow. He was hungry, so outfeed the neighbors, I guess. This is a deer I killed in 2018, November 2018. Buck I call Flyer. And cool story about him is we're kind of going to skip this deer here in the center, but he was running with a 150-inch deer that was the same size as this deer. That I opted to shoot this deer in late season in 2016 because he had no browse and I didn't want his genetics to be passed along. Well, I'm still hunting a deer that have those same genetics. The year I killed him was running with him, 150-inch deer with no browse. He's a little bit bigger now. He's got only about an inch long browse. Still doesn't really carry any brow tines, but that's something that I think's cool. That I tried to get rid of this deer because I thought he'd have junk genetics, and then here now I'm still hunting a deer that's got the exact same gene pool. This deer I shot in 2014. I rattled him in on an Oak Ridge, and I was hunting a pretty good sized 10 point. He was only 145-inch range, and at the time I thought it was the only 10 point on the property. So I rattled him in, got the blood pumping, and I elected to shoot him November 4th, I believe it was. Just fun hunt, and never forget those cold, crisp mornings. We've already talked about this deer, so before we show you the rest of the wall, we're going to talk about this stone sheep, and it means a lot to me. My grandpa killed this back in 1990, and my dad was actually the guide for this hunt. And I was actually born in Canada, and how my parents met was because my dad was running an outfitter and would come to the Cleveland sports show, and my grandpa was also an investor in a couple different outfits and loved my dad. And then brought my dad to stay at the house when he would come to the sports shows, and actually introduced my parents that way. So I was born in Canada, lived there till I was 3 months old, and they decided no electricity and no septic, no running water, and grizzly bears scratching at the side of the cabin with 3-month-old baby wasn't the smartest idea. This is Double Trouble, and I was 16 years old. It was 2007 when I killed him. And I truly didn't have the bug like I do now. I loved it and I was surrounded by it. But my grandma's reaction when I killed that deer is words can't describe. That was the proudest she had ever been, truly, I think, of me in my life. Then I had family members and other people telling me I'll never achieve that success again shooting a deer like that. And that kind of really threw it into overdrive that I wanted to prove them wrong. I wanted to shoot bigger. I wanted to feel that feeling again. And I've been chasing that dream ever since. And as we go down, I think I've achieved that. It's just, he's still my favorite. This deer I killed in 2015, and I rattled him in, and I killed him youth weekend with a bow. And that's actually, as a matter of fact, that late November time frame is one of my all-time favorite parts of the rut to actually hunt. Not a big rut fan. I like having more of a pattern, this, that, and the other. But towards the end of the rut, the big boys get up on their feet and really start to search and roam. And I rattled him in, shot him at 30 yards. He didn't make it 70 yards. And had he not broke that G4, I think that might have been the first deer that I actually had a net score on, because I'm just chasing a net booner. That means the world to me because of my uncle. So unfortunately, he had that broke G4, and never even tried to enter him in the books because I know he won't net Boone and Crockett. This deer I killed muzzleloader season in 2013. Big old heavy 8, and I actually have his shed around here somewhere. Found it the spring after from the year before, but this is the first buck I'd killed after graduating college, and I started to actually spend more time and think my hunts out, not just go sit. I didn't hunt too many times that year, but that started a year after year roll, kind of, as I've became more successful with my hard work. I graduated college and spent more time in the woods. So that kind of started my roll, and that was in 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18, and then 19, I killed this deer this past year. So this was one of few deer during college that I was truly still hunting hard. This was fall of 2009, killed up on the property just up on the top of the ridge. This deer, named him Moose because of how massive he is, and even his body. There's other deer that score more than him, but his body's just, he's a cow. He's truly a moose. And then this was actually my first bow buck, laying on the ground with crossbow in 2005. So my first deer was with shotgun. I shot a couple does afterwards, and then my first good deer, shot him with crossbow laying on the ground in 2005 as a freshman in high school. This was 2019. I've had a lot of bad luck in October, and I thought this year I might get a Halloween buck. I shot him on November 1st with a muzzleloader in Oklahoma. A good solid deer and hunt I'll never forget. First out-of-state hunt. I'm actually getting ready to have one of those backpack style mounts done with him. I hate to say it, I gotta start moving some deer heads around and making some more space. So I'm gonna go with a little bit smaller taxidermy mount with him. I'm sorry. You guys got to get out of here. It's been long enough. Thanks for coming.